Hello everyone, and today we're back for another Loomian Legacy Top 5 video. And in this video, we're going to be talking about the top 5 weathers in all of Loomian Legacy. Why only 5? It's because currently there are only 5 weathers in Loomian Legacy, so it can only be a top 5. That doesn't even mention the fact that the Weather War is one of the biggest metas in Season 4, as if you win the Weather War, you'll probably win the match. So, out of the way, let's head right onto this list. The worst weather in all of Loomian Legacy is the Smoldering Heat. Now, the Smoldering Heat's effects itself isn't too bad. It actually increases fire type damage by 30%, while also reducing water type damage by 30%, which is really good because water types are actually one of fire type's biggest weaknesses. It also makes it so bug type moves actually cost less energy, and some of the most powerful moves in the game, like Parasitize, Battering Ram, and even moves like Pestilence, are actually have their energy costs reduced because of the heat wave. Billaforge and Soulburst Crackalola are your main heat wave setters, and both of them are fine. Soulburst Crackalola is actually one of the best Soulbursts in Loomian Legacy, but you are forced to run the Soulburst item, meaning you can actually only have 5 turns of Smoldering Heat when you use Soulburst Crackalola. And while Billaforge can hold the heat scale, it doesn't have any reliable way to heal, so you have to rely on its raw bulk in order to survive hits. Not to mention that none of them have pivot moves. If that was the only problem with Heatwave, it would probably still be a good weather. The biggest flaw with Heatwave, though, is the fact that Hotfoot and Phoenix is the only good Loomian to fully utilize Heatwave. All of the other Heatwave Loomians suck. Inferno Chartiki is too slow and takes too much damage from the Inferno ability. Terrafly is fine with Hotfoot, but it has a better ability in Ambush, and Hotfoot Terraclaw is absolute trash. I mean, you could use, like, Boiling Press Searnite with Drudge, but it's just way too niche. And that doesn't even mention that it also compounds your weakness to air and earth types, which is really not good for Smoldering Heat. It doesn't help that it also has negative matchups against all the other weathers, including a negative matchup versus itself. Not to mention that Pyrolin is also a huge problem. You're not able to do a lot of damage to Pyrolin, and Pyrolin can hit you with super effective mudslides in return. So it's really hard to deal with Pyrolin when you're using Heatwave. That doesn't even mention the fact that it also has a bad matchup versus all the other weathers. Rain, not much to really say there. Thunderstorms has Phage Knot. Strong Gust hit you super effective. The only neutral matchup is Fog, but even then, Fog can overwhelm you with your soul after a Brawn boost. So, it doesn't even have a good matchup there either. There's nothing else to say. Heatwave is the only bad weather in Loomian Legacy, and all of the weathers are at least good, and that's why this weather is the worst in all of Loomian Legacy. The number 4 weather on this list is going to be the Heavy Rain. The Heavy Rain increases water type damage by 30%, while also reducing the fire type damage by 30%. It also has a better secondary effect, making plant types actually heal while it's in the rain. So you're not only running water types on a rain team, you're also running plant types as well. 2 of the best types in all of Loomian Legacy. Deludrix and Bezeldew are the main rain setters, and both of them are the reason why rain is this low. Deludrix is really good offensively, but it needs to clutch plushie in order to stay alive. If you use the rain scale to increase the rain weather for multiple turns, it struggles staying alive because Deludrix has really bad bulk. And while Bezeldew has the bulk to stay alive, especially with Drop of Youth, it's a sitting duck. It doesn't do enough damage, and you pretty much have a wasted team slot if you have Bezeldew. There are good secondary rain setters like Dyborg and Oxydrake, who actually, Oxydrake has an ability to boost its range defense stat while the rain is up, which is nice, but you have to run them in order to keep consistent weather control. As for the rain abusers, Rain Rush Sharpigo is by far the best one. Has Rain Rush, has Thunderstrike, and Frostbeam to hit Luminami and Lashant, while also dealing with other threats pretty well. Other rain abusers include Sober Skellig, Lavatross with Expert Onslaught, and defensively you could use Lumians like Lashant and Wiki to support the team. The biggest problem with rain teams is toxic types. Yeah, if you don't have a Dyborg or Dokomori, toxic types will absolutely cook you. Also, without a plant type, you also struggle with Tatub. One of the most meta starters in all of Loomian Legacy, can absolutely destroy rain teams as well. It does have a positive weather matchup versus Heatwave, and it can win versus Fog and Strong Gust, which is actually really good. You can even outplay the mirror matchup versus other rain teams if you play it right. The biggest flaw with rain teams, honestly, is it has a horrible matchup versus Thunderstorms. Phage Knot just shreds rain teams. And even if you have a plant type or Dokomore, the problem is that you can overload them really easily, and then once they're dead, Phage Knot just absolutely cook you. Overall, Rain is a pretty good weather that would probably be top 3 if it wasn't for the Rain setters. The Ludrix and Bezeldu are just way too flawed, and you are forced to run a secondary Rain setter in order to fully utilize Rain. And that's why Rain is out of the top 3, despite being a very good weather. It has all the fundamentals except for the weather setters themselves. So that's why Rain is number 4 on this list. We're into our top 3 now, and the number 3 weather is Thunderstorms. This gives electric types a 25% damage increase, while also making air types grounded, meaning that you could spam Earthquake without any flaw. It also makes it so your Loomians cannot fall asleep, so Thunderstorms probably has one of the best weather effects. Not to mention, it's even better when Plasmoth is your weather setter. This is probably the best weather setter in all of Loomian Legacy. Has good bulk, has rejuvenate, has double pivot, has pestilence, provoke, tear down, and even square 1 to stop setup sweeping. You can pretty much use Plasmoth to do anything. There's nothing else to really say here. Plasmoth is the best weather setter in all of Loomian Legacy. That doesn't even mention that one of the Thunderstorm abusers is Phage Knot. Oh my god, if there is no Earth type, this thing just shreds teams. Phage Knot pretty much OHKOs anything with a neutral hit. It can even 2-hit KO most Loomians with a neutral hit. It hits that hard. Other Thunderstorm abusers include Behemoth, Himber, Sherbot, Borak, Gargolem Attack, Solburst Takuda, Ikazune, Zulong, and Tyrex. So it's probably the weather with the second most flexible options when it comes to Thunderstorm abusers, making Thunderstorm teams a lot more flexible compared to the other weathers. The biggest problem with Thunderstorms is that they have a lot of weaknesses to certain types. Earth types are obvious. If you don't have Sherbot or Himber, you simply just cannot hit them with your electric type moves. But it's mainly plant types that are struggling, because both Earthquake and electric type moves are both resisted by plant types. And 2 of the most meta plant type right now are Lashent and Wiki Wiki. Yeah, that doesn't help. You pretty much are forced to run Sherbot, and Sherbot is probably one of the worst weather abusers in the game. Yeah, but you need to run Sherbot in order to hit those pesky plant and earth types, which makes Thunderstorm teams overall a lot weaker. It does have an amazing matchup versus Rain, though, and you can be an instant win if they don't have a Dokomore. You also have a good matchup versus Strong Gust, because their air-type moves a lot of your Loomians resist, not to mention that they're also grounded by Earthquake. You gotta watch out for the Gargolem Attack, though. So you do gotta watch out for the Gargolem Attack. And you have solid matchups versus everything else. Gust, you have a solid matchup, and also that even includes Heatwave, which, yeah, Heatwave you can beat anyway. But the biggest flaw with Thunderstorms is Gargolem Attack. Gargolem Attack sweeps Thunderstorm teams with ease, and there's no chance you could win versus a Gargolem Attack that's played well. Not to mention, the mirror matchup looks very volatile. It's a 50-50 on which Thunderstorm team wins, and unlike all the other mirror matchups, Thunderstorms probably has the worst because of the Loomians. You know, Sherbot, Himber, Behemoth, and Gargolem Attack, the same Loomians that are used to be very good on Thunderstorms, are also the ways to beat Thunderstorms as well. So that's why it's not in the top 2 despite being a very good weather, because it does have a lot of weaknesses to earth and plant types, but despite that, it's a really effective weather to use, and that's why it's number 3 on this list. Number 2 on this list is going to be a shocker, because it's Charonix and Fog. Yes, Fog is not number 1, but I'll talk about it why in a second. With this Fog weather up, any Loomian that is not a Spirit or Light type will have their abilities disabled. Also, 2-turn moves turn into 1-turn moves, which is actually really effective. Turning off your opposing team's abilities is really nice. That doesn't even mention that any non-Spirit or Light types on your team does not have their abilities disabled. So if you're able to get the weather up first, that's why teams use faster Tronixes, so they can actually set the weather up first for themselves. Charonix itself is also a great weather setter, as it has double pivot in both Fade Away and Flash and Flee, tear down to remove hazards, and an amazing defensive typing as it has 2 immunities to Brawler and Spirit, while also only having 1 weakness to Metal. Not to mention, Your Soul, one of the most meta-defining Loomians in all of Season 4. Hits really hard, and it can set up Brawn Boost. After a Brawn Boost, it can pretty much OHKO most Loomians in the Lumi decks. Not to mention that Fog also has other Fog abusers, like Borealis with its 1-turn Undermines, Lashent with its Gloomy ability, and even Loomians like Luminami and Landtorch can be very effective on this team archetype as well. Now, despite Fog being really powerful and really meta, it does have some huge weaknesses that does hold it back. While Lachette is a really good Loomian, it's usually stuck in the middle between offense and defense. Offensively, it hits hard with the Gloomy ability, but it loses a lot of its defenses, meaning that it can't switch into Luminami's Frost Beam as well. And if you're running it defensively, then your only Fog abuser most of the time is Ursul, meaning that you have 2 slots for 1 Loomian. And if you lose Ursul, you pretty much lose your Tyranics as well. Not to mention that Luminami is very problematic versus Fog teams, as it can just spam pivot moves, and it can spam Frost Beam on the Lachette, making it really hard to deal with. It does have a positive matchup versus most weathers, and it has no negative matchups, meaning from the weather v weather matchup, Fog is probably the most reliable weather to use in the weather matchup. But the reason why Fog isn't number 1 is because it's heavily carried by Ursul. Like I said earlier, once Ursul goes down, the weather really doesn't help you that much. So, yeah, if it wasn't for Ursul, Fog would actually not even be in the top 3, which is kind of crazy to think about. And while you do have other Loomians like Borealis or Lachette, they're not Loomians that can carry the weather by itself. They're mainly just there to complement Ursul. I will say this, before I talk about the number 1 weather, Tyranics actually want to be faster because 1, they want to set their own weather up for the rest of the team, and 2, it's so they can pivot first so you can actually switch into a Lachette or Light type to block the other Tyranics' pivot moves. So it's actually more effective for your Tyranics to be faster compared to the other one, which is very weird because other weather setters want to be a lot slower so they can actually have the weather priority. With that out of the way, Fog is a really good weather, almost number 1, but falls just short. So, let's head to the number 1 slot. The best weather in all of Loomian Legacy is Strong Gust. Strong Gust might be very weird to be number 1, but let me explain. This weather effect might not be the best. It prevents air-type Loomians from being trapped, which isn't that good. But increasing the air-type speed stat by 25% is amazing. It also has a bonus of buffing toxic type moves by 25% as well, meaning that Snagoop not only gets a speed increase, but also gets a damage increase as well. Whippledrift is a very solid weather setter. It may not have pivot, but it also has other tricks up its sleeve. It has the plant typing, the block, flash, and flee, and the plant typing also makes it so it's not weak to electric, which is really nice. Not to mention it can actually use the weather for itself, and if it could set up a Swiftman or a Hasten, it can actually clean up the game after a Hasten, making Whippledrift utilize its own weather really well. But the reason why Strong Gust is number 1 is because it has the best weather abusers in all of Loomian Legacy. It doesn't have just 1 star. It has 3 amazing weather abusers. Gargolem Attack, Soulburst Dragonine, and Expert Onslaught Morphizu. 3 of the best offensive Loomians in the entire game, and they're pretty much really oppressive to pretty much any team. You could, if you cannot rely on Whippledrift to keep the Wind Summon up, you could utilize Diborg and Oxydrake as secondary Gust setters as well, meaning you can actually add more depth to your team. Other weather abusers include Avatros, Snagoop, Ganderville, Zeppelin, Nemesis, Nimue, Typhoon, Windtrix, and Soulburst Stratosaur. That's the thing that makes Strong Gust teams a lot different compared to the other weathers. It has so many different options of weather abusers compared to the other weathers. Heatwave, Rain, and Fog could only wish to have this many options. And while Thunderstorms do have a lot of options, Strong Gust have a lot less weaknesses compared to Thunderstorms, and that's why Strong Gust is number 1. Not to mention it also has a positive matchup into every weather besides Thunderstorms. And with some team adjustments, you can actually deal with Thunderstorm teams as well by adding Gargolem Attack. Now, it's not to say that it has its own weaknesses. It does struggle versus ice types and icicle traps, meaning you do have to find a way to deal with icicle traps, so that can be very scary. And without Windtrixes, other Strong Gust teams can also get the jump on you as well. But despite those weaknesses, this is the best weather because all of the Loomians you could run with it, and it's very easily to overload other threatening Loomians, meaning you could overload the bad matchup or the weakness to your weather, and then you just have a field day the rest of the way. It's one of the easiest weather to use, one of the most flexible team structures you can make when it comes to weather, and it also is just a really fun weather to use, and that's why Strong Gust is the best weather in all of Loomian Legacy. And here it is, the Strong Gust weather. It's the best weather in all of Loomian Legacy. What do y'all think about the weather meta in Season 4? Please tell me in the comments below. Do you like the weather meta? Do you not like the weather meta? Which weathers, in your opinion, is the best in Loomian Legacy? Please tell me in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed this top 5 video, and I will see y'all all later. Bye-bye!